is hopping and full as they get ready for Arturo Gatti against Leonard Dorin. Coming up next, very potentially a Fight of the Year candidate. A look at Leonard Dorin's locker room, where the Romanian-born, Montreal-based fighter prepares for the highest profile assignment of his career. Last year, he had a spectacular fight with the unbeaten Paul Spadafora in Spadafora's hometown of Pittsburgh. And just as was the case there, the overwhelming majority, in fact, almost all of the crowd here tonight, will be rooting for Dorin's opponent, as Arturo Gatti has made of Atlantic City a second or third home. It has become his home arena. Well, last week, one of the best-liked people in boxing passed away. Al Gavin was known early on as a fighter. Later on, he functioned as a trainer, but through most of his career, and certainly in posterity, his greatest identity is as a member of the smallest and most select cult in the sport, Cutmen. We at HBO Sports have been putting together for several months a feature piece on Cutmen. So in light of that, our interview with Gavin and his subsequent death become something of an irony. But Al Gavin had plenty to say about this subject before he passed away, and his words on the intricate art of stopping blood are timeless.
Blood is drama.
Boy, that cut is bad.
This is serious drama.
Somebody in the corner says, he's cut, with a panicky voice. And I say, okay, that's my job. I'll take care of it.
You see a guy cut and everybody's screaming and yelling. 45 seconds is about what we have. So we can get to that cut right away.
Pressure is very important. The knowledge of where to push at the right time.
A lot of pressure. You want to slow down the bleeding.
And then the chemicals will take charge.
Boom, 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 boom. It all works together. Get in and get out.
When fighters bleed or swell, Cutmen provide a form of emergency medical treatment without any formal medical training, sometimes without even a high school diploma. The job is usually anonymous and often critical.
Cutman is huge to a professional fighter. They can be a lifesaver. It can decide the outcome of a bout.
Depending who a fighter's cutman was, would influence my decision on stopping a fight or letting it go.
Neither Al Gavin nor Joe Souza ever intended to be among the best cutmen ever to work a corner. It just happened.
I went to Stillman's gym, which was like a university for boxing. And I saw the managers, I saw the trainers, and I saw a group of fellas off to the side. I said, who are those guys? They said, those are the cutmen. They were the elite guys. They would get the calls. They would stand by the phones waiting for calls from Cleveland, Boston, Cincinnati. They'd be on a plane the next day doing 2 and 3 fights. I said, it looks like a good profession.
My life ambition was to be a mortician, and I think that's where the blood comes from. Blood is blood, regardless where it runs, and I have a passion for blood. Very simple.
Souza's passion now is making the blood go away. To do that, Cutmen apply one of 3 vasoconstricting drugs.
That's the Avitine.
Avitine, thrombin, or most commonly, adrenaline, often mixed in Vaseline. But the first line of defense is an ice-cold piece of steel.
A lot of people don't use the end swell enough. They don't see any marks. They don't use the end swell. I start the end swell in the dressing room. And if a bump comes, I get it before it gets any bigger. You stop it at the pass.
It was Souza's work with an end swell one night 8 years ago that made him a boxing cult hero.
The first time I worked Gatti, it was a nightmare.
Gatti goes down on a short left hook inside, and he didn't see it coming.
No, because his eyes are swollen so badly that he can hardly see.
In the second and third round, his eyes were closed, he was cut, he was battered, he'd been on the canvas, and by the 4th round, his eyes were wide open.
Gatti's left eye is more open now than was the case 2 rounds ago.
All of that is from excellent work in the corner.
Unsung heroes of the sport, the Cutmen. Joe Souza's a hero tonight in Gatti's corner.
2 rounds later, he knocks the guy cold. What can you say?
But the way many cutmen use the end swell on large lumps illustrates the divide between boxing tradition and medical science.
What we typically see is a cut man who will use the inswell and pressures the swelling away, pressures it away. That will work for a short period of time. Ultimately, the swelling will come back and come back in a worse way. The only way you can move that swelling is to tear through the tissues with that fluid. What you want to do is minimize it where it is. Firm, direct pressure.
Nevada doctors Homansky and Goodman say too many self-proclaimed cut men are clueless in the corner.
They're halfway through the round and no one has applied anything to the cut at this stage.
And too few seek out the advice of boxing's vanishing breed of cut specialists.
Half of the young guys are full of, can I say crap on here? They don't want to learn their trade. They want to put a towel on their shoulder, buy a bottle of adrenaline, and tell you, I'm a cut man. But when you try to tell some of the younger guys, oh, my father was a boxer in 1921, he told me, yeah, your father was a losing boxer.
With Gavin's passing 2 weeks ago, boxing loses one of the few remaining artisans truly skilled at stopping cuts. But Al Gavin told us with an optimistic chuckle he wouldn't be the last.
Well, there were guys before me, so hopefully there'll be guys after me.
Al Gavin's gone. Many fighters will miss him. Joe Souza keeps on going, and you see him there with his star client, Arturo Gatti. Rest assured, Souza remains as important as anybody in Gatti's corner in this fight or any other. Larry Merchant, tremendous piece there and a great look at two terrific guys in Al Gavin and Joe Souza. What's the big significance of blood in prize fights?
Well, of course, as I've said many times, it does heighten the drama of a fight. It can also inspire a fighter. Gatti says his own blood inspires him. It can influence officials. And I know that when I go home after a night at the fights and I've got blood on my shirt, it's almost always after a good fight.
Roy Jones, a professional since 1988. I've never seen you learn whether you could be inspired by your own blood. Does that mean that your cut man, Dr. Richard Lucy, has been non-essential all these years?
No, he's always essential because there have been times when I feel swellings coming on and he takes the N-swell and he handles those swellings. So I don't want to know if I like my own blood or not. I hope I never get to find out if he can stop a cut. But there have been times when I've needed Dr. Lucy in the corner to slow the swelling.
All right, now let's turn our attention to the fight and get ready for what could be some spectacular and potentially some bloody warfare. And partially because of his enormous tendency to cut around the eyes, Arturo Gatti wants the story now to be that he boxes a lot more and brawls a lot less. Can he pull that off against a sturdy, resolute, face-first opponent like Leonard Dorin?
No, there's no way possible that that is going to happen. That might happen for 1 or 2 rounds, but Dorin will not stop until he gets a war. And if it's war he wants, these people didn't come here to watch Gatti box against a guy who fights like Gatti used to fight. They came to see Gatti bring out the old Gatti.
We told you it was good news, ladies and gentlemen, and Larry, as we get ready to watch Dorin, the lesser known of the two fighters, he's already given us 2 great bloodbaths here on HBO. He's already proven that he's an Arturo Gatti-like fighter. Can he go in and beat Arturo at his own game tonight?
Well, you know what happened to him when he went back home.
In Bucharest, that's right. In Romania, he quit.
In Bucharest, and he just resigned even before the fight. And it makes you wonder, how do you say no mas in Romanian?
Nimie.
But on that occasion, he suffered a meltdown because he couldn't melt down to the lightweight limit of 135 pounds. Then he announced his retirement for about a week. What we'll see tonight is more of what we saw in that bloody brawl with Paul Spadafora about a year ago. This energizer little guy can fight. 2 bronze medals in the Olympics, a world championship also as an amateur. So how do you say Gatti Ward 4 in Romanian?
That I don't know. Let's get ready for the tale of the tape. All you boxing fans know what you're about to see. Arturo Gatti's 32 years old. Leonard Dorin 2 years older at 34. 4-inch height advantage for Gatti. He's seldom enjoyed that kind of dimensional advantage over a different fighter. 25 inches in arm length for Gatti, measured from the armpit to the end of the fist, a 3-inch advantage over Dorin. More reason why Dorin has to get inside and pressure Arturo throughout the fight. They weighed in under the 140-pound limit, and we do not have their unofficial weights tonight. Rules of the bout with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
The Arturo Gatti Leonard Dorin fight is scheduled for 12 rounds using the unified rules of the Association of Boxing Commissions. There is no 3 knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight. In case the cut is caused by an accidental headbutt, we go to the scorecards if the 4 rounds have been completed, and you cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the 12th and final round. Jim.
Last year, Leonard Dorin went home to his native Bucharest, where he intended to fight Miguel Callis in a big fight, and as Larry Merchant mentioned, arrived at the scale overweight and stunningly decided not to fight. Now he comes here ready to step up to the most publicized outing of his career.
Well, he and his wife recently became Canadian citizens. They emigrated from Romania 6 years ago, and they had an offer from a consortium of backers to turn pro, and he has not disappointed them.
How aggressive can Dorin be? Well, a lot of observers thought that no one would ever make change-up artist Paul Spadafora fight a physical fight. And Dorin got him into an all-out war in Pittsburgh. It wound up being called a draw. Dorin says, hey, I went to Spadafora's hometown and came out with a draw. As far as I'm concerned, that's a win. Now the crowd begins to chant for Arturo. Roy, what does this do for a fighter when you feel this kind of crowd support?
It really gets you pumped up, because then you realize what you're actually going in the ring for. This is what the people paid to see you. This is what you live for. This is what you get up every morning and go to work, go run hard, go do your exercise, do what you do. This is why you do all the hard things you do.
And look at Mickey Ward, Gatti's rival in 3 spectacular fights. For the 2nd consecutive fight, Gatti brings Ward into the ring with him. What an amazing bond these two guys have forged.
Anytime you fight somebody that many times and you have that tough of a fight with them, you have to know them better than they probably know themselves.
Crowd is electric, Larry.
He just plugs them into the socket. This built up very slowly during the night. All of a sudden, everybody came back from the refreshment stands, and this is what they want.
Montreal, Northern New Jersey, Atlantic City, Vero Beach. They all claim him, as does the boxing public at large. Notable wins, twice over Mickey Ward. Who even remembers that Ward won the first of their 3 unbelievable fights? Twice Gatti outboxed Tracy Harris Patterson. The losses, he was really totally outmatched against De La Hoya. And of course, twice against Ivan Robinson, the fight of the year in those instances as well. This could scarcely be a more exciting environment for a prize fight. Let's go to Michael Buffer for the official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, courtesy of Bally's Atlantic City and Caesars Atlantic City, Main Events is proud to present 12 rounds of boxing for the WBC Super Lightweight Championship of the World. Brought to you in association with Interbox and DeBella Entertainment, and sponsored by Nemiroff, sanctioned by the New Jersey State Athletic Control Board Boxing Commissioner Larry Hazard Sr. The 3 judges at ringside scoring this contest on the 10-point system will be from Thailand, Anik Hongdongkam. From England, Larry O'Connell. From the United States, John Stewart. And when the bell rings, the man in charge of the action working inside the ring for the 34th time in a world title bout, your referee, Randy Newman. And now, by way of Bally's and Caesars Atlantic City, for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble! Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing dark blue and officially weighing 139 pounds, a two-time Olympic bronze medalist. And he now has a professional record consisting of 23 bouts without a loss, 22 victories, including 8 knockouts with 1 contest even. He now lives and fights out of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, originally from Ploiești, Romania, the undefeated challenger, the former undefeated lightweight champion of the world, Leonard Dorin. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing gray. His official weight, 139 1/4 pounds. And his professional record stands at 37 victories, including 28 knockouts with 6 defeats. By way of Montreal, he now lives and fights out of Jersey City, New Jersey. The two-time world champion, the undisputed ultimate blood and guts warrior, the reigning, defending WBC super lightweight champion of the world, Arturo Gatti.
Okay, gentlemen, you're both familiar with the rules as they've been thoroughly gone over. I want you to remember 2 things. I want you to protect yourself at all times. I want you to obey my commands, have a good, clean fight. Shake hands, come out of the bell.
2 fighters as tough as a barrel of nails. Which one has the bigger hammers?
Well, for a moment, it looked like Pat Lynch was never going to get Arturo Gatti's robe off, and the fight was going to have to be delayed because of wardrobe malfunction. Unintended wardrobe malfunction. Again, Gatti wants to box. Dorin wants to go to war. Leo Dorin's best punch is his straight right hand. Gatti has a history of being painted by right hands.
But Gatti's smart. He's starting out with his jab already, so he's starting out very smartly with this.
He's the bigger, rangier man. Try to use his left hand to keep Dorin off of him all night. Dorin willing to take leather to step inside.
Gatti landed a good right uppercut when he was coming inside then, too.
And there you have it. Dorin, like I said, willing to take leather to step inside, gets hit twice to force Gatti to the ropes and lands 1 big shot while he's in there. Arturo going to work with the left hand, jabbing and hooking both.
I bet you this is the biggest fighter Dorin ever faced. And the biggest puncher.
Which he acknowledged yesterday in our meeting with him. Said he expected Gatti to be the biggest puncher he'd faced, but he smiled when he said it.
You know, Roy, one of the medals he won at the Olympics was as a junior welterweight.
When he moved down to the lower weight class, it was because he thought he could be more powerful as a smaller fighter. Now he's back up in the neighborhood where Gatti's power will be an advantage for him.
The good thing for Dorin, though, is that he does not rely on his power.
All right, come on, get out of there.
For most of the first round, though, and we're 2.5 minutes in, Arturo Gatti has managed to box effectively, keep Leonard Dorin from getting in. Dorin has only gotten to Gatti's ribcage a couple times. And there you see the plan as Arturo flurries and moves away.
Break, you're tied, break.
Dorin beginning to make his presence felt. Willing to dive inside to do it. Good round for Gatti.
He's trying to come over top of the jab with the right hand. So just stay nice and loose till you find the rhythm. The jab is keeping him honest. Just keep popping that jab. Just keep popping. Till you find the rhythm, baby. Very good round. Okay, he's going to try to get you in that slow. When you get inside, beautiful. Walk him around. Okay, if the ring is...
He's teasing you with the jab, okay? He wants you to lose your balance. Okay, sit down on your leg, okay? Keep blocking the jab, and he has a lazy jab. His jab is lazy. We can look over the top over the jab. Remember that, okay? With speed. You've got no speed now, okay? Show me that speed, man. You are faster than this guy. Abuse of your speed. You listen to me? Come on, Leo.
Some very interesting conversation in Dorin's corner, in which he said that Gatti's jab was lazy. It was not a stiff punishing jab, and that he could punch over it.
CompuBox finding Gatti throwing 36 jabs in the first round, but only landing 3. CompuBox finding Dorin landing 10 of 36 punches, but Gatti threw 61.
Gatti's not throwing his jab to land it, though.
He's throwing it to throw it.
To set up the rest of his arsenal. That's what a good fighter does. You start out with your jab and everything else works off.
Break, you're tied, get out of there.
Gatti's money punches his left hook, among other reasons, because he has so frequently broken his right hand.
4 times to be exact. 5 operations on his hands in all.
And he's had trouble with the right hand in each of his last 3 fights. But, of course, it never stopped him from throwing the punch. Dorin crouching and creeping in and firing one left hook to the body.
All right, break.
Tries to get in another one.
Good.
Dorin showing you he's willing to take 3 or 4 punches to get inside and try to land one. If he can get that punch to the ribcage, he's happy.
Good hook by Dorin.
Hook upstairs to try to set up the body punches. Another good hook by Dorin. He's quicker with the left hook than Gatti expects him to be.
I must add, Dorin has a pretty good defense, too.
Gatti looking at his right hand already after Dorin gets inside and rips him with a hook. It looks almost as though Gatti's worried that he's hurt his right hand again. He glanced at it twice.
And it looked like it was after Dorin hit his right hand with his own left hook.
Exactly, Roy. It was not a punch landed by Gatti.
Now Gatti trying to go to the body to back Dorin off a little bit. Dorin starting to get the fight he wants. Blood trickling from his nose. Gatti backs up to the ropes. Dorin stalking and stalking. Good left hook to the body by Gatti. And Dorin goes down. What a tremendous shot.
Dorin may not recover.
He's not going to make it. Arturo Gatti has knocked out Leonard Dorin with a body shot. A tremendous left hook to the body. We talked about the power difference, and that was just power knocking a man out.
Power and precise punching. That was a very smart combination that he used to do that. He threw the 1-2-3, then he came back and followed it with the 1-2-3 and added a left hook to the body. That was beautiful boxing.
That's about the most decisive one-punch body knockout since Roy Jones.
Knocked out Virgil Hill with a right-hand body shot in New Orleans. That's right. And that was a case of bigger man, bigger punch.
I'm not prepared to say that. I just think it was a precise punch because when you look at the body of Dorin, he's as solid as anybody could be. He's just shorter than Gatti. I don't recall Gatti ever knocking a man out with a body punch. He almost broke Ward in half with a few, just as Ward almost broke him in half.
Well, it's always been a primary weapon, the left hook to the body, but I don't know. I just have to believe that Leonard Dorin, having tasted 135-pound power, found 140-pound power from Gatti a different trip. All 13 Gatti connects in the second round, according to CompuBox, were power connects. And here's another look at the knockout, Roy.
He threw a 1-2-3. Then he followed with a left hook because Dorin had his hands up so high, and that really caught Dorin off guard because he was expecting for Gatti to either move out or throw another left hook. So he threw the 1-2-3 just to make him put his hands up. Then boom, there goes the good body shot.
Right on the liver.
Right on the liver.
Which freezes your legs, right?
Yes, it does. Freezes everything.
And that's why Dorin wasn't able to get up, because of the precision targeting of that left hook onto the liver.
And if you look, he wasn't no way set for that punch. He didn't even drop his hands to block the punch. He never saw that punch coming. Those are the worst ones.
Kind of a delayed reaction, too.
1-2-3, all to the head just to make him pick his hands up. And then there goes the beautiful body shot.
And at that moment, you had to suspect that Dorin was going to pop back up, but he never regained his legs from the withering liver shot that Gatti was able to produce. There's manager Pat Lynch, been with Arturo through all of his tumultuous career. And a big celebration for Gatti. And let's go up to Michael Buffer for the official particulars on the KO.
Ladies and gentlemen, the end comes at 2 minutes, 55 seconds of round number 2. The winner by knockout victory, and still the WBC Super Lightweight Champion of the World, the ultimate blood and guts warrior, Arturo Gatti.
So instead of being the fight of the year, which many, if not most of us expected, it becomes the easiest win of Arturo Gatti's entire long trip through the sport.
And he was able to box for those 2 rounds. However, I think if we'd have gotten to the later rounds, he wouldn't have been able to continuously box that way. But he was able to box for those 2 rounds.
Final CompuBox numbers. And you'll see that Arturo Gatti threw 50 more punches. He was controlling the flow. Dorin was able to land at a slightly higher connect percentage, but Dorin was basically just trying to get inside and land one body shot at a time. Gatti was the one who, as Roy Jones pointed out, was using combinations, using his left jab to try to set up the rest of the arsenal. Power shots, 19 out of 54, as we mentioned. In the second round, he landed 13 power shots, and the last of them was the body punch that ultimately decided the fight all by itself. Larry Merchant stands by in the ring with Arturo Gatti.
Thank you very much, Jim. Congratulations, Arturo. Have you ever stopped the guy before with just one body shot?
Yes, I've did a few times, actually. The funny part is that we're working on it in camp, during camp, 11 weeks during camp, we work the body a lot. The mitts, the body shield on body.
Is that because of the way he's built and how low he is that you felt it would be harder to hit him with clean shots up the head?
Well, I knew that he has a good guard. He keeps his hands up a lot, and his body was wide open.
You talked to us the other day about lifting weights at this late stage of your career. Do you think you're stronger?
Oh, definitely. Since my new conditioner, Teddy Cruz, the last 5 fights I've been lifting a lot during training camp. It definitely helped me a lot. But the speed of the punches brings the power in.
In the second round, you shook your hand. It looked like you connected to his hand, and maybe, I don't know if you broke it or not, or just felt it. What happened?
No, actually, Larry.
Here, describe what you see.
It was a left hook to the body. He hit my elbow, and I thought he broke my arm or something. It kind of like locked. It locked my. Right there, it locked. My elbow locked, and I thought something happened, but it came back.
All right, now you're shaking your hands, and of course, you've been operated on 5 times on your hands. So, were you concerned at all that you couldn't be effective with that punch, with that hand?
Oh, definitely. No, it happened too many times. You can't win fights with one hand. So, thank God it wasn't that.
All right, now let's go to the knockout. Did you see he was vulnerable? Were you unable to really penetrate him anywhere else?
No, it was a matter of time. You know, he covers his head well. I was using my jab, and I lured him to a good body shot. And that's what the first instruction that Buddy told me, to work the body, forget about the head.
All right, now let's take a look at it, and you describe it for me and what you saw and felt.
Well, he was coming in. As you see his hands, his guard is right up in the air. I couldn't go to the head, and that was a perfect body shot right there. Perfection, on point, and on target.
All right, another angle. There you see.
He's coming in. He's worried about his head, and I put everything on that left hook. All my weight is shifted to the left, and I knew once he went down, I knew it was over. I raised my hand after the count of 3, and I want to thank God.
Well, you've had 4 fights that have gone the distance in a row. In 3 of them, you took a lot of punishment. You must surely be relieved that finally you got out of here without not many bumps or bruises, no blood, no broken bones.
Believe me, Larry, I do believe that I feel good now. Trust me, more than a victory for me for not going to the hospital right after the fight. It feels good, trust me.
All right. Now, you fought a guy out of Romania. You fought an Italian last time. Before that, 3 times Mickey Ward. There are a lot of good fighters at 140 pounds. Zhu, Mitchell, Hatton, Vivian Harris, Mayweather has jumped up in there. When are you going to take on one of the elite guys in this division?
Larry, I never refuse. I never say no to anybody. But now they want me to fight some elite boxers. I'm ready to fight anybody, and I want to also get an increase in my paycheck also. You know, it's fair on that one too.
Well, but if you're working by the round, you can't get an increase by your paycheck.
Well, I still entertain the fans. So.
All right, but seriously, there's been talk of you fighting Mayweather, perhaps. Give us your preference.
I would definitely love to fight Mayweather, but I was hearing that I might fight Sparafora is a possibility. But Mayweather, don't worry, I'm not chicken. I want you as much as you want me, my man.
Thank you very much for another passionate night at the fights.
Larry, it's always a pleasure being with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Arturo. And now let me turn to the loser, Leonard Dorin. Leonard, you describe what happened and how you felt when you were hit with that body punch.
Wow, it was a good punch. It was the first punch in my life what put me down. That's the first time in my life when I was down.
You were never down before, even as an amateur?
That was the first time in the
body.
In the body, yeah.
Well, but you have always held your hands high, but now you moved up in a weight class and you fought a good puncher. And
was very strong punching because I tried to recover and I feel my legs is shaking like that. I said, wow, what's gonna happen? What's happening now? And I feel the blood coming, and I said, okay, I cannot continue.
Were you surprised that he was able to box and control the flow of the fight until then?
No more round than 5.
You thought that he'd be able to do that for 5 rounds, and then you would be able to engage him?
Yes. But, you know, it was a good punch, a good body punch, but that's the game. That's why the boxing is so nice. And, you know, what I have to do now? I have to train hard and to protect better now this next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate your fights. Jim?
All right, as Larry Merchant mentioned, we've seen Roy Jones do this to Virgil Hill, knocking a guy out with one hard body shot. Does a fighter ever say to himself, Roy, I think I can knock this guy out with a body punch, or is it always a pleasant surprise?
It's always usually a pleasant surprise, because most of the time if a guy sees a body shot coming, he can take it. However, with Virgil Hill and with the case with Dorin tonight, they never saw it coming.
And in both instances, they were caught right on the side, underneath the rib cage in the most vulnerable area.
Most vulnerable.
So you're targeting that.
Yeah, you got to, because that's the only spot that you can do permanent damage to where you won't have to worry about them coming back 3 or 4 rounds and getting their strength back. When you take it from there, it ain't coming back.
Now, because of the full house that we saw tonight, the excitement that Gatti elicits, Floyd Mayweather's been chasing him really hard. I mean, Mayweather talks about this all the time, that he wants to fight Arturo Gatti, and most boxing experts seem to feel that Gatti's people will avoid that risk. Do you think the two of them will fight?
I think they'll fight, because Gatti won't avoid the risk. You can believe Gatti. If it's up to Gatti, he won't say no. He's an old-time warrior. We don't run from nothing. He ain't gonna run from nothing. He'll take it. Now, however, I think Mayweather is the superior boxer, and it would be a kind of crazy fight for his people as far as Gatti goes. But for Gatti gonna say yeah.
All right. We'll see what happens with Gatti's promotional team main events. Thank you very much, Roy. And Larry, it was another exciting night with Arturo, but this time an entirely different kind of excitement.
Yeah, and it's interesting that with all the passion in the arena and everybody building up for days or weeks to come to a fight like this, and then it ends as suddenly as it does. And this only happens in boxing. You don't know. You don't have to go 9 innings or 4 quarters. Stuff happens. And the fans seem as elated and fulfilled as if they saw another Mickey Ward fight. And at this rate, of course, since we've been talking about how long Arturo Gatti can go on, well, how about another 13 years?
Yeah, right. Gatti the boxer, who knows?
It's hard to believe he's been at it for 13 years. But I do think he's going to have to step up and fight some of the serious guys at 140. The Mayweather fight could happen as a pay-per-view and a big money fight for him. And we have to keep this in mind, that for his fans, Gatti is virtually defeat-proof. Win or lose, they want to see what he brings to us, and they like to bring what they bring to our fights as well.
Indeed. One of the oldest sayings in the sport is, styles make fights. As Arturo Gatti's career has shown you, styles can make fighters too. Throughout most of his career, it's never mattered to his fans whether Gatti won or lost, only that he fought. Now that he's fighting in an entirely different style, now that he's preserving himself more, risking less, and trying to extend his career, it becomes increasingly important that he win. Tonight, Arturo showed you he is stepping up to that task. Will he step all the way up to fighting a Floyd Mayweather Jr., whom some regard as the most gifted fighter in the sport right now? That remains to be seen. But what a spectacular piece of business it would be for them and for us if it does take place. We'll have a final word on what happened in the ring here in just a moment. Right now, let's look ahead to some upcoming programs on HBO.